Welcome to another episode of Live Life Courageously. Today, we are talking about the courage to care for the caregiver. We are thrilled to welcome back Dana Garrett. She is a passionate author and digital creator. She lives in South Louisiana with her Eagle Scout husband and two joyfully energetic kids who inspire her every day. After her daughter's diagnosis of Coffin-Siris syndrome and autism, she felt led to advocate for kids with disabilities and their families through writing. She developed a children's book series highlighting nonverbal kids and their siblings titled Elena and Wyatt's Adventures. Dana spends her fleeting free time enjoying the great outdoors and leading impromptu dance parties wherever music is playing. Her work is rooted in a desire to encourage others to embrace differences, advocate for acceptance, and believes that everyone belongs. Now, last time you were here, we discussed your journey to find out the how instead of the why after Elena's diagnosis. Today, we're shifting gears to talk a bit about caring for the caregiver. What are some of the unseen emotional burdens that caregivers of special needs children carry?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Have some cool things to share with you today. And like we were saying earlier, all in God's timing. So it just worked out for the best today.
Yeah.
I think some of the emotional things that we carry that doctors aren't going to tell you, um, really the only way you know as a caregiver what you're going through is if you talk to someone who's already been through it. And I like to call it similar to its diagnosis grieving. And it's
Mm-hmm.
similar to grieving the loss of a loved one. But this is something that you're going through the same steps, the same grieving process, but your child's still there and your child is still the love of your life. You want to do everything for them. You're advocating for them. You're doing all the things, but you still are emotionally going to go through a grieving process and no one prepares you for that. And what I like to tell caregivers that are in the middle of it, whether they're in the depression part, whether they're in the pleading part, pleading with God, or whether they're, in denial in the very beginning. At the end, the very end is the acceptance part. And when you get to that acceptance part, which you won't successfully get to it until you go through all of these other processes very honestly and openly. Once you get to that acceptance part, that's where the magic unfolds with your child. You start to look at them in a different way. They absolutely become more of a blessing than a burden, although it does tends to be kind of live in the same world. The you know, the blessing and the tragedy and all of those emotions at the same time. But the acceptance part, that is the hope that I am trying to convey to caregivers is at the end of the tunnel, there's a bright light and it's called acceptance. And when you accept their diagnosis and you accept them for who they are, they start to feel more confident in themselves. They read our energy, they listen to what we're saying to other people about them. And like I was telling you in episode 1, season 1 of the telepathy tapes, there's a nonverbal little girl that reads her mom's mind. And they have scientific evidence that that is absolutely true. And that is how she communicates with her mother is through reading her mind and speaking to her through her mind. So just imagine when you're going through those phases of like depression, denial, pleading, all of those
Mhm.
phases, and potentially your child can read your mind, you know, that has to be heartbreaking for them if they do have that gift. I don't think Elena has that gift. She talks to us. I think her gift is she talks to us through song on YouTube and she's very sassy and bossy and loud. I don't think she can read my mind, but I do believe that that actually can happen and that just listen to the first episode after this one because it's mind blowing.
That's a wonderful gift to think about, but also scary.
So scary. I mean, there's no way that she, like she said in the episode, there was no way for her to block it, you know? even if she's just thinking of like the groceries that she needed later in the day. Her daughter would somehow show her or remind her what groceries she needed without her even talking to her about it. So, yeah,
Crazy. I mean, that's like it's incredible to think about.
it's incredible, and it's also, I think, unbelievable for a lot of people. It was the same way, like, with spelling. If you've ever heard about spellers, they're nonverbal people that learn how to spell on a spelling board, and they spell out everything that they wanna say. There's a lot of controversy about that. They think the tech that's helping them is kinda guiding them to spell a certain way, and it's not. I mean, it's these kids really have worked hard to learn how to use this spelling board. It's not digital, so it's handheld. I mean, they're pointing to the letters and they're spelling out their thoughts and their feelings and what they wanna say. And it's controversial, but I like to remind people back in the day when Braille first came out and sign language just came out, that there was people that rejected that as a means of communication. And they didn't believe that someone could read Braille, that they understood sign language, or that they were producing signs that actually meant something. So this is like modern day Braille and sign, spelling and telepathy, which it sounds crazy.
Well, it's different, right? And
Yeah,
for sure, we know that nothing is impossible with God, right? And
right.
we also know that the human brain, the humans usually only, I mean, we only use like what, 10 to 20% of our brain. So there's so much in there that we don't even
We don't even
know.
access. Yeah.
Right.
And in some ways, maybe because these children are nonverbal, their brain is forced to use other ways to communicate, and some of it comes out this way where, they have to try really, really hard. And but the hopeful thing about the emotional part with caregivers, the hopeful thing is once you get to that part of acceptance, things do get easier in the way that you're more comfortable with them. You're more comfortable caring for them 24/7. You're more comfortable bringing them in public, not worrying about what other people think. You're more comfortable with knowing that some of these things are going to be really hard to deal with, but also knowing that this is your heavy cross to carry. And once you accept that, then things do become a little easier.
I imagine the dichotomy is pretty hard though in the beginning because you have this child and then you have this diagnosis. And I mean, you have to, I wonder, how do you give yourself permission to rest and relax without feeling guilty? To go take care of yourself without feeling guilty? How does that come into play?
I don't think the guilt goes away. I think you say, you know what? I can't pour from an empty cup. I know the things that I need to do to be my best self, to give them their best caregiver. And you're still going to feel guilty. I do. I still feel guilty when I take time for myself. And I tell her that before I go and do what I need to do, like go to the garden shop without her, or um, you know, go to the hair salon or something like that where I just need to be by myself. And I just say, I'm going to do something for me right now, but you're going to be taken care of and I love you. And I just need some mommy time. And she usually
Yeah.
giggles and like pushes me away, like, go get out of here.
She's like, I need some Elena
Yeah.
time. So go.
Yeah. She's like, Mom, I had enough of you so far today. So go take your time. And actually, when we get a babysitter, she's like pushing me. She's pointing to the door when we're still there talking to the babysitter. She's like
Uh,
pointing to the door for us to leave. She's like, we got this. You need to go. It's just, yeah. But yeah,
that's very insightful of her, though.
finding a sitter that is comfortable with her and Wyatt. And now that he's a little older, he can kind of tell the sitter what she needs. She actually went above and beyond and took a little babysitting autism class at one of the
Wow.
local community colleges. Yeah. And she told me about it after she did it. She's like, I have a lot of kids that I babysit, that are on the spectrum. And I just wanted to know more, not everybody can find that, but just so grateful that we did.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a big, it's such a big thing for a caregiver to be able to take their time away from their kids and actually really, really trust who they're leaving them with.
Mhm.
So otherwise, I mean, there's respite workers and like we were talking when they're in school, they have paraprofessionals, they have, the special education teachers, and I just wish they would be paid more. They deserve it.
Yeah, they do,
They're
for
on the
sure.
they're on the front lines. They're taking the physical abuse, they're taking the emotional and they're taking it all, and they're frontline workers. I mean, in my mind, they're on the same level as like ER nurses and doctors and, police officers and the people that are um, driving the ambulance. I mean, these are all frontline, very important, just like the special needs teachers. And gosh, and it all starts with the caregiver, you know?
Yeah.
We're the most important part of that puzzle. So if we can keep ourselves somewhat sane, realize and just be open to what we're going through. What phase of the grieving process are you going through? Because we're all going through it. If your child has a diagnosis, I mean, I hit the ground running when I got it because I wanted to do more. I wanted to learn more, but the emotional side of it, I still went through every single step. And the denial part, obviously, you don't realize that you're even in it. Yeah, it wasn't till a little later looking back, like reading my journal entries and stuff. It's like, man, I was trying to bargain with God. I was trying to make a plea deal. Like, let's do this, like a sales pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Denial's huge, and I think in grieving in general, I think denial and anger are so close together,
Yeah.
right?
They're
And I
kind of,
think
yeah, they kind of
that
twist
goes back and
together.
forth. That can
Yeah.
go back and forth a lot too. Like, you're gonna deny, then you're gonna be angry, then you're gonna deny and be angry. To get past the
Hmm.
denial and anger, I think is the biggest part.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I was telling you earlier about God's perfect timing. I met a mom that she's in that anger and denial part. And we were in a Bible study class that I hosted, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to play that scene from The Chosen. It's with little James and Jesus. Anybody can look it up on YouTube. If you Google the little James scene, I think they have, I don't even know how many millions of views they're up to. But I know I've watched it a bunch. So if they're counting every time I watched it, I'm probably part of that. I probably hit one of the 1,000 marks. But whenever it came out, I was like, okay, it's not directly from the Bible, but there's a similar part of the Bible that they took that scene from. Little James just basically was like, he has a limp, so he has a disability. He can't walk far. He's slow to speak. He doesn't always speak very fast, and he's usually pretty quiet. So they were about to go and embark on preaching the word of God and perform miracles in Jesus's name. And Jesus was like, "Okay, little James, let's go." And little James was like, "Are you sure? Like, look at me. How am I supposed to perform miracles when like I can't get around fast? I don't talk fast." And Jesus said, "Let me tell you something right now. I don't ever want to hear that type of doubt." He said, "I and the Lord trust you." How amazing is this going to be? How amazing of a story is this going to be? You who wants to be healed are actually performing miracles for other people to be healed. He said, "Do you want to be healed?" And little James said, "Yes." And he said, "Right now is not the time." He said, "When you cross over," he said, "you will leap with the horses. You'll speak as quick and as eloquent as you want." And he said, but now God's purpose for you is different. What an amazing what an amazing message for caregivers,
Yeah.
because God does perform miracles and he does heal. And maybe we need to look at it as he trusts us. How amazing is it to someone else to look at me and say, "Wow, you have strong faith and your child isn't completely healed." Now, she is very blessed in that she doesn't have the severity of symptoms that some kids like her with CSS have. So I do see the blessings there, but the miracle of speech she does not have. And I think he's working through her in different ways. And it's for a reason that my mind can't comprehend, but I trust him. And I know that it's for something way bigger than us and way bigger than what our little brains can fathom.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's powerful testimony. Can you share a little bit more about your discussion with the mom from Bible study and how you
Yes.
helped her?
I just got so deep into that scene that I forgot I was telling another story. It's called Weaving.
No, I like that you brought up the scene because I haven't seen that yet.
Oh gosh.
I haven't watched a lot of The Chosen. I mean, I love it. I just don't
Yeah.
watch TV a lot.
Yeah.
So now I want to go watch it.
Yeah. Oh man. Whenever I just, whenever doubting Thomas is in my head or whenever I'm struggling, I go back to that scene. It's only about 6 minutes, but it it just gets me right back on track every time. Yeah. So anyway, I thought that this other mom, her daughter's 5, nonverbal autism, just like my daughter, except my daughter's 13. So I'm at a different grieving process than her at this point. So I thought she was going to be like, wow, I needed to see that, you know? But like I said, she is in the denial part and the anger part. So her question was, I just have a hard time believing that that's true. She said, it's hard for me to think that my child has a purpose. It's hard for me to
Wow.
think that there's a reason why she is the way that she is. And these are all questions I asked too when Elena was 5. I was mad. I was angry. How do these criminals have the miracle of speech and my sweet innocent child can't talk? So I, hadn't thought about that in a long time, but I could see in her face all of her emotions. And I was like, yep, I've been there. I felt that. So I took a deep breath. I had no idea what I was going to say next. And I said, we all have heavy crosses to carry. And she kind of looked at me and I said, listen, you're questioning the future of what your child's going to do on this planet. Every parent questions that, not just a child with a disability, but also that is a question that I don't think that we're going to know, in this lifetime what the reason was for. And as soon as you get to that point of acceptance, her life is going to be a lot easier. But we all have heavy crosses to carry. Some have a disability. Some people are poor. Some people have to deal with loss of loved ones. Some people, there's so many things, are unlucky with love, or job security. There's so many heavy things that we all have to carry. And I think that got through to her a little bit. She was like, "Okay, yeah." She's like, and I said, "Do you realize you're going through a grieving process?" And she said, "What do you mean?" And I told her, I was like, "It's diagnosis grieving." And I explained to her what I told you. And she was like, "Well, that makes a lot of sense." She's like,
Yeah.
the doctors haven't told me that part yet."
Right.
And I was like, "No, they're not. The only way you're going to hear about this is probably from a veteran disability mom like myself, and just go through each stage, give yourself grace. And at the end of it is acceptance, and just keep the faith and realize that that acceptance part is going to come. You can't rush it. Just like
Right.
grieving a death of a loved one, you can't rush it. You have to go through it all. But it's a life experience that you have to go through, navigate in different ways, journal, get a lot of sunlight in the morning. There's some practical things you can do, but I think prayer is good too. Meditation.
Oh,
Meditate on
prayer.
what you're going to feel like when you get to that acceptance phase. You know, what
Yeah.
you're going to look like, what you're going to feel like, what your child's going to look and feel like when you get to that acceptance phase. And then your mind is going to start trying to get to that because it's going to feel so much better and lighter than where you're at in the moment.
It sounds like you've created such a wonderful, caring community for moms with special needs kids, and I love that. I love hearing these stories. What would you tell somebody from the outside, though? Instead of somebody saying, "Let me know if you need anything," and you're in a situation that you're in, you have a child with a disability diagnosis, you're grieving that. What is something more supportive to do than just say, "Let me know if you need anything"?
Love that you bring this up because I just published a New Orleans mom blog post. It's called From Awareness to Acceptance, and it'll be out on April 1st. So I'm sure by the time this episode airs, it'll be out. But it
Yeah.
gives practical tips for everyday moms, how to help their neurodivergent moms that are going through this. And some of them are, I guess the first one would be like, if you know someone and their child just had a diagnosis, don't say I'm sorry. They use the words tell me more because you don't want it to come across as a tragedy. So the caregiver is about to start this long process that they need to come to terms with. And so everyone around them should say things like, um, do you need a minute to yourself? I can watch them while you go to the grocery. Ask them what their child's triggers are. What are your child's triggers? Sometimes they'll say crowded places. So then you can say, okay, what do you need to go do that usually triggers them? I'll keep your kid while you go to the grocery. Or if you just want to say, how are you feeling about everything today? Instead of like, how are you doing in general? Just be like, how was last night? Did they sleep okay? Because sleeping's a big issue. Did you sleep okay? I usually ask that to newborn parents. Hey, are you sleeping? Because it's a big thing. It's such a big, important thing. And if you're not sleeping well, your sanity's probably not top tier. So,
No.
yeah, ask specifics. I think specifics will help them open up more, like the caregivers. It'll help them open up more to just, oh gosh, I did not sleep well. And, blah, blah, blah. But it's good for them to get that off their chest and to know that you understand that these little things that seem small are like chronic issues for us, like sleep and like going to the store. Like these are big things that we deal with every day for years, not just a newborn phase. So it's like we're in the newborn phase for years. Um, Ask them what their favorite foods are. Like if you want to do some type of meal train or bring them out to eat. Now, out to eat is also one of those public places that can trigger a meltdown for their kids. Um, ask them if they want to cook at their house and you can bring something over because usually like the caregiver's house, they have everything set up and the kids the most secure and calm. So you kind of need to invite yourself over. And then it'll make them clean up a little bit, but they still feel less overwhelmed because it is their own space.
Mhm.
So I would suggest that too. And just always invite them and know that if they don't say yes, it's not because they don't want to. Sometimes it's because they're going through something or they didn't have sleep and they have baggy eyes. But always, always, always still give the invitation. That means so much just to know that like the caregiver's still being thought of and included, um, and that their child's still included. So I think the invitation, making plans, is a huge thing. Even it doesn't have to be fancy plans, just any type of plan. Anything that
Walk in the park.
yeah, let's go for a walk. And if they have their kids, um, ask them what their favorite thing to do is. And if they don't know, that's where it's kind of like you're prompting them to try to figure that out. Because sometimes caregivers are so wrapped up in therapies and doctor's appointments and worry that they're forgetting to help this child figure out what they're good at because they're all good at something. This is a universal thing. Every single person on the planet has a talent. And these nonverbal kids, these kids with autism level one, two, three, they all have a talent in there. And sometimes the teachers aren't figuring it out because they're focused on their behavior and they're focused on academics. So it's up to us, to try different types of therapy. Try horseback riding, try aquatic therapy, which is like swim lessons with a physical therapist. Find out what their favorite things are. If you don't know what your child's favorite things are outside of like they like bubbles or they like to swing, you have to go do a few more things with them. I encourage parents to do that all the time. I'm like, "Yes, I know they like bubbles. I know they like to swing, but there's something that they're gonna be really good at, and you just have to keep, you know, exposing them to different things and see what clicks for them. Because once they find that little passion, then you can expand on that, and then you can build a community for them around that. Because then there's other little kids that might like the same thing and go from there. But
Sounds like a lot of the important things is just to keep the conversation going and be specific
yes.
and not like these general platitudes.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's very similar with like how I talked to my neighbor about when her little one was a newborn. It's kind of like a lot of the same questions. Like I said, how are you sleeping? How's the baby sleeping? What kind of food does he like? You know, are you trying this or that? And it can get overwhelming to an extent because sometimes the caregivers are in it so much that it's like any outside noise or help or suggestions can get overwhelming and overstimulating for us because we're like, oh, wait, I didn't think about that. Now I need to try that. Now I need to look up aquatic therapy. I'm just trying to add extra to it, but some of it can be overwhelming. So maybe just like, you know, one specific question at a time. Think about when you have a lack of sleep and you're not in like, at your 100% best. If somebody just don't ask like, an overly amount of questions or suggestions because then sometimes, it's complicated. Women are complicated.
One object only. We don't want to know how it feels, tastes, and looks like. We just want to know what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Just pick one of the senses and roll with that. But I think the main thing, like from awareness to acceptance, is just actually include us. Like learn our child's names, learn their quirks, what they're good at. If they make silly noises, it's okay to bring that up. Like we won't get offended if you say, "My God, that was a hilarious noise," or "Oh my gosh, he's skipping down the driveway. That's crazy. Like, is he going to be okay?" You can say things like that. The conversation is welcome. It's clumsy conversation. It's asking clumsy things because you're not. You have no idea about you know, disability or what theirs is specifically. So I'll say it's clumsy conversation, but it's so welcomed and appreciated instead of just trying to ignore them or to pretend like they're not doing something silly that you can, instead be laughing at together because it's a silly sound or, they're spinning in circles and they're trying to play hide and seek in a funny way or whatever. So I think it's just showing effort and just being open and like I said, just include us.
It's great advice. You pour into so many people. You pour into your children. You pour into other caregivers. How are you able to stay spiritually nourished through all this?
I mean, that is what nourishes me. That's what fills me up, you know. Giving to others is the biggest reward out of all of it. Helping others and just being grateful for the platform that I've been given in these different avenues. I think I'm more comfortable helping other people and thinking about other people because I've already done the inner work for myself. You know, I've already gone through that long process. I've already gone through it, and while I was going through it, I was like, "You know, I know there's gonna be something awesome after this. Know there's gonna be something great, and I wanna give back, and I wanna help people who are doing this going through the same thing, and I wanna help the kids." And I you know, at one point, I was sick with pneumonia for 12 weeks after we had Elena's diagnosis, and I couldn't walk and I couldn't talk, and I was tired of watching TV. And really, I just did a lot of meditating and a lot of prayer. And it was same process was like, what am I going to do when I get out of this? How am I going to help other people? Because, you know, it's really hard right now, but I want to focus on how I'm going to turn this around and help other people that are going through what we were, you know, going through. She was 5 and we had just gotten her diagnosis. And then I was knocked down physically. And so I really do believe God put me through that 12 weeks of um, struggling to walk, struggling to talk, um, you know, just not being able to do much. I just thought about all the kids that go through that every day and they live that every day. My daughter lives that every day, the struggling to talk part. And I feel like I was put in that position to feel that a little bit. And then it motivated me to go beyond that. Okay, now you know what it feels like. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to do nothing and never talk about it again? Or are you going to start advocating? And are you going to start writing? And are you going to start getting people together that can help each other? Because it's not healthy to be alone and isolated. And so I chose that.
That's really insightful for you to look back on that 12 weeks and turn it into something that was a blessing.
Yeah. I mean, I've had to do that a lot in my life in different situations, like, you know, find the silver lining type of thing. And this was the latest one that, yeah.
That's incredible. So, where can you meet moms online? Do you have an open Bible study that you do on Facebook?
So it's not virtual yet. We are, another caregiver, Sarah, and I host it together. So she actually just said that last week. She's like, how do we make this live so people can tune in? So we're still figuring that out. Um, but I have a website, danagarrett.com, and I put all the events that are upcoming on there. You can sign up for my newsletter, and that'll have information about all the new things that we're doing, the Bible study, the retreat. I'm working on an ebook that's going to help caregivers, and it'll be like on their phone and they can just scroll and get to it when they need it. And yeah, so all that information's in one spot. But the Bible studies right now are just local, and they're at We Rock the Spectrum Gym. The owner, Heather, is awesome. But if you don't know about We Rock the Spectrum Gym, it's a gym started by an autism mom who didn't feel comfortable at urban air or altitude or these indoor gyms. So she created this gym herself. And now there's like 200 all over the country.
My gosh,
Yeah.
really?
And so the gym has like Wiggle Wednesdays, and they have a social group for kids 7 and older. They have a teen room, and she literally watches our kids with autism in the gym part while the parents go in the party room and have the Bible study. So it's like we kind of have our babysitters all under the same roof, like while we're having Bible study, and it works out so great, and she's so awesome, and she brings in extra staff to help. And um, yeah, it's new, but I mean, more and more moms and dads are starting to join our little local group, and it's catching on because I think it's needed, you know? Yeah,
That is awesome.
yeah.
It's called We Rock the Gym.
We rock the spectrum.
Oh, we rock the spectrum.
But
Okay.
it's not just for kids with autism, which is awesome. It's for everybody. It's where everybody belongs. And but it does have a focus on adaptive swings, adaptive chairs, adaptive, like there's an arts and crafts room, and they buy supplies that are adaptive and specific for kids that, have motor planning issues. And um yeah, it's a great place for inclusion. It brings, my son is neurotypical, and he calls it kids gym. He's like, "When are we going to kids gym? I want to go to kids gym." So,
Love it.
yeah. So, yeah, it's a great place, and it kind of gives the caregivers a peace of mind because they can kind of peek out of the room if they want to check on them, but they're still there, but then they're getting their Bible study. And like one mom said, she said, I don't feel comfortable going to church because my kid's loud and makes funny noises and kicks the pew in front of them and, touches people." And so her church has been like virtual, watching mass online on YouTube, which we did that too for a long time. So the Bible study is like all of us that have these insecurities about going to an actual church, we're all getting together and like letting our kids be loud and crazy and kick and do whatever, have a meltdown and get back up and have fun, all while we're all, you know, praying together. So it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to look into that. We'll put your contact information in the show notes as well as information for that. Anything else to add that we should know about?
I'm also working on custom book projects. So I have, Elena and Wyatt's Adventures, and they're going places that I make up in my mind. But I'm also working with like foundations and We Rock the Spectrum and different places like that Elena and Wyatt are going to go to. And it's
Nice.
going to be a story about going to the doctor, what that looks like to help prepare them for unfamiliar places. So
Hmm.
that's a new section of what I'm trying to advocate and share with people and teach kids. Like, it's okay to go here. This is what like an x-ray machine is going to look like, and this is what it's going to do. It's almost like social stories, but storytelling. And so that's my latest venture that I'm excited about.
That's really cool. And I'm excited we're going to be featuring your books and our socials as well for April. So our guests can look forward to that. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this morning and for sharing some more about autism and caring for the caregiver and really just the inclusion impact and how important that is. I also thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. I know there's a lot of podcasts that you can choose from, and we are honored that you came to listen to us today. Remember to follow, like, and share. This really, really helps us, and we also love reviews. Until next time, keep living life courageously.